Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Stanton series lecture. This series is not familiar to everybody because we haven't had one in a while. I will tell you that over the years it's been used to feature what we would say are principled leaders that are involved with important institutions. And I'd say that would cash out as organizations that really stand for something that matters. And this evening's program is no exception. Edward Jones has a storied past and a compelling future, but it might not seem that way all the time. And I say that because these days it doesn't always seem as though personal integrity and trust are as important as they have been in other eras. But here we have a company that's built on millions of personal relationships. And so I would say that the success of the Jones model is sort of a tap on all of our shoulders that values still matter, and they matter a lot. And that's why this evening's guest is so important. She's about to become the sixth managing partner of Edward Jones since the founding in 1928. Those of you that didn't work the case in ethical leadership, I should say a managing partner of Edward Jones is like a CEO plus the board in one person. Not the chair of the board, the whole board in vesting that kind of authority in one person. With over 16,000 financial advisors, she takes the reins of the largest retail sales force in the securities industry. I should add that Jones has also eclipsed the industry in two other metrics, one being customer satisfaction, the other being employee engagement. If you're going to script the resume for someone assuming this responsibility, it might include these things. UVA undergrad, Kellogg MBA, built a successful Jones office in Livonia, Michigan, moved to the headquarters in St. Louis, and led 4 areas spanning the entire business, from training the new financial advisors to developing the regions to marketing and research. I was a Jones partner years ago, and I can say that every one of these areas is a challenge. And I can also say that any one of them could derail a career. To have excelled at all 4 is frankly, it's embarrassing. I feel like such a slacker. I mean, it's really embarrassing. It's also evidence of the utter readiness to lead this organization. I want to learn more. I hope you do too. So please join me giving a warm Georgetown welcome to Pennington. Pennington, I'm sorry.
Very much. Thank you. Thank you for a very kind introduction. Why, everybody? I heard the groan. I have walked your storied streets on Friday and Saturday nights when we used to do the road trip up from Charlottesville. So it's nice to be back in Georgetown. It's been a long, long time since I had the opportunity to come here in that way. And it is kind of surreal to have that up there. Thinking back over my education and my career and feeling like it hasn't been that long, but it's been almost 35 years. And what I'd like to share with you tonight is a little bit about Edward Jones. Absolutely. A number of you have studied the Edward Jones case, and I'd like to touch on that just a little bit. I'd also like to share with you just a few reflections on career and life and leadership that I've learned during my time since leaving UVA. In 1985. So let's talk about Edward Jones for a few minutes. I will warn you that whenever I talk about Edward Jones, it is like a verbal love letter. The organization that I have the opportunity to be a part of has been a gift and a blessing in my life and my family's lives. And because of the opportunities that I've had to be a financial advisor for 6 years with Edward Jones, I believe strongly that I've made a difference in hundreds of families' lives in and around Michigan, but also now as an institutional level leader, the opportunity to affect millions of lives and tens of thousands of professionals who call Edward Jones home. That opportunity is simply a reflection of the mission of our organization and the culture that is really grounded in supporting clients and supporting professionals to serve them. So in just a couple of minutes, when I talk to you about leadership and life and career, I'm going to challenge you to look for a place that will do that for you as a professional. But we'll get to that in just a moment. Let me talk for a moment about the Edward Jones case. The original Edward Jones case was written in 1996, a Harvard Business School case written by a professor named David Collis. And for years and years and years, the case has been taught right next to the Southwest case. Why? Those are two examples of pure strategy in terms of firms that made trade-offs that, as our current managing partner says, a trade-off is when you leave money on the table. It is when you decide what you're not going to do as often as you decide what you are going to do. So strategy is about defining the business that you are going to be in and then making trade-offs to focus the attention of that business on a particular set of clients. Southwest did that for years and years and years, and Edward Jones is an example of that as well. Our firm was counseled for many years by Peter Drucker. Anybody know who he is? So many years ago, John Bachman and Ted Jones, who was the son of our founder, Mr. Jones Sr., and it's important that you hear me call him Mr. Jones Sr. and we call Ted Ted as if he were still in the room. He's not, and I never met him, but I speak of him in the same way that UVA grads talk about Mr. Jefferson as if he were still in the room. But Ted and John Bachman, who was a young whippersnapper, former financial advisor who came into home office to help grow the firm, Ted and John Bachman started reading Peter Drucker's book years ago, chapter by chapter, and then leaving the conference room and going to employ the tenets that Drucker was espousing to see if they would work in this little company in the middle of Missouri. And so what they were learning from Drucker was that there are three important questions about a business. First is, what is your business? Second is, who is your client? And third is, what do they value and how are you going to deliver it? So many, many years ago, Mr. Jones Sr., Ted Jones were answering these questions, and the reason that this case was written is that we've stayed pretty true to the answers to those questions for many years. And what it has resulted in is a business that stayed pretty simple. We do only one thing. We're purpose-built to serve today 7 million clients in North America, 17,000 financial advisors, branch teams, all throughout North America. Every nook and cranny, lots of rural places, but also lots of suburban and metropolitan areas. And so the reason that we are now more widespread than we were ever, and that we will continue to be, growing to serve from 7 million clients today to tens of millions of clients in the future. The reason that we do that is that we were built to serve them. We were built on the basis of what is our business, to serve our clients and help them achieve financially what is most important to them. Help them balance competing pressures in their lives to understand what is important to them, use the established process of our profession and our craft as a financial advisory firm. And then we can do this at Edward Jones because we've proven it. We've been around since 1922. We promise them and their families that we will partner with them for their lifetimes and the lifetimes of their children and grandchildren. And I, as now an institutional level leader, have to make good on the stewardship of that promise to ensure that we are here for another 100 years at least. One of my favorite quotes, though, is, if you don't like change, you will like irrelevance even less. And the world is changing. Everything that impacts an individual investor, a family, about what they're trying to accomplish, it's become more complex. It's changed over time, and it will continue to change. The needs of the marketplace change. Where our clients are is changing. Our clients are getting older, and they're getting younger. I know that sounds crazy, but you know the demographics. So from an age standpoint, our clients are becoming more dispersed. The diversity of our clients and what their needs are, their risk tolerance, and we were talking about this earlier. Younger clients were affected by the financial crisis and the meltdown, and it made them very low in their tolerance for risk, which is very dangerous when you're planning your own personal financial future. In fact, it's as dangerous as being too risk-seeking. So Edward Jones, over our nearly 100-year history, has had to grow and flex and learn about the needs of our clients. And what we're facing today then, and what the case gets into, is our strategy is pretty pure, but the complexity of speaking to the clients, the breadth of clients that we want to speak to, is becoming more complex. And a company of the size and scale of Edward Jones, what we do and how we do it, is becoming more complex. So tackling all those things while tailoring to the needs of 7 million clients and the needs of 45,000 professionals, while remaining true to a strategy that has enabled us to grow to the size and scale that we are today, is the challenge, and that's the challenge that the case outlines. So there is a ... then at the end of the Edward Jones case, as there is at the end of every case that you study. What's going to happen next? So what's going to happen next is that we are going to stay on this road. The change that comes from a new leader at our firm is not a change of strategy, and it is not adding business lines to what we do, and instead it is managing the complexity of a growing number of clients with a growing number of needs, and a couple of very important things that I know you think a lot about. How to handle the type of demographic change and evolution that we're seeing among our clients as well as among our professionals, and how technology impacts the primacy of personal relationships. So an always-on relationship with our clients that does not usurp the trust that comes from building a face-to-face, human being to human being relationship with millions of clients, tens of millions of clients, but one client and their family at a time. So that's what Edward Jones is all about from a strategy standpoint, and we might talk further about that. I don't know. Nobody told me what the questions were, so I don't know exactly what we're going to talk about, but I'm excited about that. But for about 5 minutes, let me give you just a little bit of retrospective on a career that included a banking career for about 14 years. Before coming to Edward Jones. I had a very successful banking career with a number of banks, one of which is no longer around. It was a very successful career, but there were moments where it didn't feel very significant. And there became a moment in my life after 12, 13, 14 years that I had that question, am I going to do this for the rest of my life? And something about the answer to that question did not seem quite right for me, so I started poking around on Monster.com and found Edward Jones on the internet. And there were two things that attracted me to the business model. One was the business model. The way that we're oriented is that each of us as financial advisors build a practice in the community where we serve. We meet the public face to face in a very emotional kind of way. So it was important to me when I saw that, because it was clear that it was going to matter if I showed up every day. It mattered that it was me with all of my gifts, all of my passions, all of the ways that I wanted to serve. It mattered that it was me. The second thing that brought me to Edward Jones was the investment philosophy. Our investment philosophy is tried and true. It has helped clients for nearly 100 years build durable wealth in the only real way to do it, and that is to buy high-quality assets, lengthen your time horizon, delay your own gratification for something greater that you desire for your future, and get good advice doing it. So those two things are really what brought me to Edward Jones. What I recognized at Edward Jones as soon as I arrived here was that this was a place that was a nurturing place, but also a place with a very high bar, a standard of excellence that enables someone that we admire so much like Ed Sewell to say that we are trustworthy and have high integrity, because we won't say that about ourselves. Our managing partner several managing partners ago said that is never something that you can say about yourself. It has to be earned and bestowed by others. And so the opportunity to build a practice and be supported by other professionals around me showed me that Edward Jones was a place of real belonging for me, that I could be completely who I was, that I could grow and develop over time. And the opportunity that I've had since being a financial advisor and now being an institutional level leader is leaders who said to me, Penny, I know that you're not sure that you have all the experiences it's going to take to be successful in this next role, but we want you to take this next role. I've heard it called a 50-50 role. 50% of it, you know what it is. 50% of it is brand new to you, and you enter the office every day a little bit terrified. That's a good thing. That is such a positive thing for a career. So I would just challenge you. I know you are in different stages in your career. Many of you have had some career experience, some maybe not, and then there are others in the room who've had lots of career experience. But finding a place that we can bring completely who we are, all of our gifts, all of our passions, and what I say to many people is that it's worth being away from your family for. Finding a place like that that nurtures you as a professional, that pushes you, that sets a very high bar, standards of excellence that you really feel a responsibility to step over, to continue to nurture others and show them that same bar of excellence. And at Edward Jones, that same bar of partnership. So I'll close here, and then we'll start another kind of conversation. Edward Jones is also a giant partnership. Ted Jones sold the firm to a few partners and then 14 limited partners many, many years ago at book value. Today, we're about to close our 17th limited partnership offering in January. We'll have 25,000 limited partners, and we have about 480 general partners. As far as we know, we think we're the largest operating partnership, certainly in our business. And what that does then is requires of us to steward our firm in the way that others before us stewarded the firm. We are owners of the firm, and as Jim Weddle says, owners act differently than employees. We think about stewarding the future of the firm, and we are a partnership from a corporate entity standpoint, but we're also a partnership in culture, in that it is in our best interest to help one another be successful. And so I would challenge you to be part of a growing firm. A firm like Edward Jones, that we have 7 million clients today, we have a 40 million family addressable market. When you're at a growing firm, it is in everyone's best interest to nurture one another, to help one another. There isn't a win-lose. It's common practice at Edward Jones for us to share our very best ideas with one another, because we're going to serve more clients that way, and because we become better professionals for their benefit. So I'll stop there, and would love to continue the conversation. Thanks, y'all.
Penny, while you're getting settled, I wanted to very briefly recognize somebody else that's with us tonight. There is a second Jones partner in the back, my colleague and friend, Bob Chepchik. Bob, there he is.
Bob.
And the reason I'm doing this, Bob and I were speaking earlier, and he mentioned that your schedule's locked down for 2019. They're now working on 2020. Mm-hmm. And it just occurred to me that there's a lot to learn from the way you spend your time and how it's allocated. And I wonder if you might just start by sharing with us, not necessarily these days, but as you came into St. Louis and assumed a leadership role as a young leader, how did you allocate your time?
Wow. Well, I think generally, and it really is still the same, allocating my time to a set of responsibilities that are known, that are written down on a piece of paper, and I agree with my leader that I am going to achieve a certain group of results, a certain focused group of results that's going to have a meaningful impact on clients and our organization, and I'm going to achieve that within a particular time frame, so I'm spending time doing that. But I'm also spending time learning. So remember that 50-50 thing. 50% of the time is spent on what are my responsibilities and what are the results that I have agreed with my leader that I'm going to achieve. But it is my job, it's my opportunity to learn across the organization, to create networks across our organization where we can partner with each other, where I learn from other colleagues what's important to you, what's on your responsibility statement, and how does it all fit together. One of the beauties at Edward Jones is because we only do one thing, everything fits with everything else. There's nothing that I can do in one corner of the organization that isn't going to affect clients or colleagues in another part of the organization. So over the past 7 months, you could really think of it in exactly the same way. I've been in listening and learning mode, mostly learning mode, transitioning from our current managing partner, visiting with clients, visiting with our branch teams, visiting with colleagues around our organization, and seeing the organization in a really new way. Remember I said that thing about being terrified every day? I was terrified all day today because we were on Capitol Hill. That's a terrifying place. It's a great place. It was amazing to see the variety of the legislators that affect the futures of consumers and investors, and that's what we were talking about. But it's all new to me, and Jesse Hill, who's our partner and responsible for government relations, was having to translate for me for a lot of the time. But that's an opportunity to listen and learn and have a different kind of impact. So that's the way I spend my time.
Great. I will get us started off now with some questions. Again, thanks for being here, except now I am questioning my future career in banking. But aside from that, everything's been great. So
it's a different world, and you're a different banker than I was. So
we'll see.
You're going to be awesome.
So I'm curious about the people and experiences in your life, really your upbringing and how that's prepared you to be the leader of the firm.
Yeah. So you want to go back to day one, but there is a bit of an interesting story to tell there. I'm a product of two terrific parents, both of whom were executives themselves. One at a utility company in Nashville and another one at a retailer and a footwear company. And my father was a CEO. I watched him as young in my career as he retired from his firm after nearly 50 years. But the experiences that he had in taking on new experiences, he started on the manufacturing floor and he went into retail and merchandising and all kinds of different things. And I saw him experience and learn and put himself in a position in a really optimistic way to learn all kinds of different things. And he became a CEO of a publicly traded company. So the daddy-daughter CEO thing is really, really cool. And I don't know if you're this way. It doesn't matter what age I am or what I am able to achieve in my career. If I can make my parents proud, then I'm really excited about that. So my upbringing was from watching my parents really care about their careers and feel like they were doing something meaningful was a big part of it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And further, I'm curious to see how mentors have played a role in your career, whether that was early on or now as you enter into this 50-50 role that you're stepping into.
Yeah. Well, mentors, and I don't know if you're reading much about this, but mentorship and sponsorship. Do you know the difference? Have you read about the difference between mentorship and sponsorship? Mentors, and both have been really meaningful in my career. Mentors are those who give you advice, who coach you, who are good examples to you, who may come in and out of your life in a formal or slightly more informal basis. Sponsors are those who are talking about you in the room when you're not there. They're talking about your experiences, they're talking about your potential, they're talking about your competencies and how those competencies and gifts can line up against things that are really important for your organization to accomplish. So I've had the luxury of having both in my career, and some of my mentors didn't even know they were my mentors, right? Because I was watching them. And then from a sponsorship standpoint, I also know who those folks were. And those were the folks that I was either colleagues with or was my leader who was seeing me in action, that I was open about what I wanted to try to accomplish and what I wanted to try to contribute, and was willing to take a little bit of risk on me and say, okay, I'll help you do that. If you'll listen to me, if you'll also teach me, I'll take a risk on you and talk about you in the room when you're not there, about what you're trying to accomplish. But I will tell you a story, an anecdote about mentorship and sponsorship that I would also challenge you to look for in your organizations, and it has to do with that 50-50 thing. Several years ago, we were about to make a leadership change. There was an individual who I led, and we wanted to increase his level of responsibility. And I went to our current managing partner, my leader, and I said, we want to move him from here to there, but I don't think we're quite ready yet. I think he needs 6 more months. And Jim Weddle looked at me and he said, Penny, what are you going to know about him in 6 months that you don't know today? And I said, nothing. And he said, well, then move him now. And he looked at me and he said, and if we'd had that idea about you, if we'd said, no, don't move her for 6 months, he said, you wouldn't be where you are today. So find leaders who are ready to sponsor you in those ways, to risk themselves, but also to risk you with good intention, to put you in places where you can grow and learn.
Well, actually, speaking to that leadership, one of the things that we really studied through Edward Jones was the idea of almost decentralized leadership, especially with such a big firm, independent financial advisors. And we talked about especially those doing the right thing when you're not looking. You know, the standards that you walk past are the standards that others follow. And that's very, I think, central to the success of Edward Jones as you develop relationships independently from the home office. And as you grow, how do you maintain this culture? How do you ensure that this is going on, you know, without oversight when you have independent FAs like that?
Well, I hear you having been in one of Ed's classes, right? Because he said this to us when he was at one of our recognition conferences for our top financial advisors. We had Ed come talk to us about ethics and a culture of compliance. And Ed said, your ethics and your culture are defined by what you are willing to walk past and not correct, not do something about if it's not the right thing. So it is a sort of a fascinating structure that we have. I'll go into it for just a second. We have 17,000 financial advisors, 17,000 branch teams. It's a very big firm, and we want it to feel small. This affiliation that we have with one another is really, really important. So our firm is broken down into 288 regions across North America of 50 to 75 branch teams. And those regions are self-led. So those regions are led by a regional leader who is a financial advisor and a group of volunteer leaders. Why do they do this? They're not compensated for it exactly, but they say, like I did, somebody did this for me before and I want to be involved in this. This adds to the texture of my career. I learn leadership skills. And so we're built in this leadership structure. But I'm not there every day. Their area leader is not there every day. They are there every day setting annual objectives for their marketplace and for what they want to accomplish for their clients. They are there every day executing on those objectives without sort of management supervision. They are there doing that because they themselves are purpose-driven around what's in the best interest of our clients. So I think you mentioned the word culture, and I think the important thing with any culture is to define really specifically what it is. And our culture is defined by doing what's best for our clients, thinking first about that, and then knowing that as we support one another, that helps us be better professionals for the benefit of our clients. So the way that we maintain that in this decentralized structure is to talk constantly and to hire for our 4 core values and the way that we believe about putting our clients' interests first and nurturing one another. We self-select for that. We hire for that. When we hire in the home office, it is a grueling process. Not because we're not nice to talk to, but because it's really important for that person coming to Edward Jones and for us embracing them at Edward Jones to know that we stand on those 4 core values. So that's how we keep that going.
Outstanding.
Great. So when you think about your career, can you tell us a little bit about a challenging period of time?
So I'll talk a minute about my career intersection with the financial crisis. So everybody knows the cataclysmic period that started in 2007, 2008, 2009. I was fairly new into the home office, into institutional kind of leadership at that point. So I was beginning to lead a part of the firm where we were bringing together different pieces and parts of our firm at the direction of our managing partner. It was part of his platform as he became managing partner about how important the client service professionals that are in each of our branches, what we call our branch office administrators, how important they are to the client experience. And that part of our business, those professionals really needed some attention. And so I was asked to take on this new responsibility, organizationally bringing different parts of the firm together, creating a vision statement for this group of professionals in this part of the firm. And here comes the financial crisis. And so clients are hurting during this period of time. Our branch teams are at pretty high level of stress and anxiety to take on the anxiety of our clients and keep them in place with moving along in their plans. And we did $200 million of cost-cutting, cost containment during that period of time because our managing partner said we need to take 10% out of our operating expenses, but we are not going to touch payroll because we've never really had a layoff before, and we weren't going to do it then. So as institutional leaders, we were trying to figure out how to do that at the same time that we were supporting I was supporting our branch office administrators in the branch. So the IQ and the EQ that was required to think about the right places to cut costs and partner together with everyone in the firm to stay calm. And what I learned during that period of time was the value of optimism, of resolute leadership, of, as Jim Weddle taught me, when you go out of this room Put your shoulders back, put a smile on your face. We're making hard decisions, but we're making them together, and we're making them for the benefit of our clients. And if we work together on this, we're going to be fine. And he was a leader that I saw, things will get tough, and you just go, oh my gosh, how am I going to finish this day out? And I never saw Jim flag in that way. The resolution, the optimism, the confidence that we together could make the decisions that were going to be right for our clients. Lessons in leadership during a really critical and high pressure time.
That's great. So just flipping gears a little bit, when you think about your career, what's the nicest thing someone has ever done for you professionally?
Wow.
We should have given you the questions before.
Yeah. The nicest thing that anybody has ever, the nicest thing is to have put me in positions where I was terrified. Just really, and I said it earlier before, coming to the office every day saying, my gosh, everything's changed. The context has changed. I don't know about this meeting that I'm about to go into. I don't even know the language that they're speaking. As I would move from division to division, where leaders would say, no, you're ready. We know you've got a lot to learn, but you're ready. And they would help me understand that my readiness did not have to do with the technical expertise. My readiness had to do with my competency set that is portable. Your gifts that you could fall off a log and exhibit, that's your competency set that's portable. And so leaders who would remind me that those competencies, those portable competencies, and my ability to learn and growing my ability to learn is what I was going to bring to the next opportunity. So leaders who kept reminding me of that and then have kept putting me in these positions, the nicest thing that could have happened to me. Feeling comfortable, it seems like it'd be nice, but it's not nice. That's not nice. Yeah.
Thank you.
So we studied the Edward Jones business model and its emphasis on personal relationships, and it's obviously been extremely successful. But how has it been affected by some of these new technological advancements in financial planning, something that we were speaking about a little bit earlier, robo-advisors, automated, so I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Right. I'll give you a really interesting anecdote that I just saw. We actually had an operation in the United Kingdom starting in 1995. We left the United Kingdom in 2005, 2006. The capital rules changed there, and it made it untenable for us to be there. And so we sold our operation, about 300 financial advisors at the time, to another very fine firm, and they're still doing great. Before we went into the UK, we worked with the London Business School to really understand and define our value proposition so that we could articulate that as we stood up this new operation in the UK. And we wondered if the value proposition was going to be different in the UK than it was in the US. Jim Weddle is clearing out his office, and he handed me that study. That study was done in 1994, so it's 28 years old. He handed me that study with a little Post-it note on page 45, and it was the value proposition. The value proposition talked about how important it is for clients to feel understood, informed, in control, and secure. We have just completed a value prop study with thousands of clients in the past 2 years, and it's those same 4 emotions. That value proposition is durable from at least 28 years ago to today, during a period of time that technology has rocked the world. It's changed everything, right? It's rocked the world, and so what we know is that those 4 emotional elements have to be reinforced through every interaction that a client has with us, including technology. that technology is used not to usurp the personal relationship, because there is no amount of technology that can take on the anxiety that a client felt in 2008 when their world was melting down, when they knew they were 5 years away from retirement. There is no machine that can take that anxiety off their shoulders and put it on mine. But that kind of confidence, that feeling understood, secure, in control, and therefore confident, that kind of confidence can be reinforced through technology. So the technology that we're building today is not about being the whiz-bangiest, coolest technology. Everything that we are developing today is in order to reinforce that sense of feeling understood, in control, secure, informed. So technology can actually help us with that, because the one-on-one, face-to-face relationship is really high value, but clients don't want that or need that every week. But they need their confidence in their financial plan and financial planning to be reinforced at least every week, because they're making spending and saving decisions at least every week. We can do that through technology. So actually we feel like the combination of the IQ and the EQ, the human being, and technology that reinforces that's a lights out combination. We're really excited about that happening.
So to continue in a similar vein with that, as you prepare really to step into the role here, the managing partner, and what has made Edward Jones so successful is this personal relationship. And one, how do you carry that into the leadership role for the company? Mm-hmm. And two, how are your concerns changing from the role that you're leaving to the role that you're stepping in? And what do you concern yourself with every day now that you're at this level in which you're a part of this stewardship of the company here?
That's a big question. So
I know.
No, it's good. It's a great question. The first thing that you asked was the personal relationship is really important. So as an institutional level leader and as the managing partner of the firm, how do I steward the importance of the personal relationship? Well, it's by having personal relationships. It's by having personal relationships with our legislators. That's what we were doing today on Capitol Hill, was to have those personal relationships, to understand what is inarguable about what we're trying to accomplish together. At our firm, to have those personal relationships with our financial advisors and our branch office administrators and our home office colleagues. And thankfully, with 7 million clients and 45,000 professionals at our firm, technology can help with that. So we're doing a little pulling up the carpet and getting rid of some bookshelves in my office, so that I can use technology to be in our branch offices, and they can be in my office, where we can make sure that we continue to be aligned around those 4 core values and what's important for our clients. So personal relationships really, really matter. From an institutional level, institutional standpoint, what am I spending my time on? Well, Ed mentioned, what does my calendar look like? As we grow through our careers, we have to add some stuff and let go of some stuff. And so understanding what I need to let go of, and understanding where only I am expected to be and can be, but always matching that up against where are our clients, where are our professionals that help serve them, and where can I advocate for the individual investor and what their needs are, what the anxieties of families are across North America. Where can I advocate for that and influence our firm, our industry, our legislators, our colleagues to be the best that we can be for those millions of investors. North America, our country, everything about our country will be stronger if families and their futures are stronger. If they have less to worry about in that realm, the whole place will be stronger.
One more question, but and then we'd like to open it up for any questions you may have. There are 2 microphones. I thought there were. There's at least one. Yeah, there are 2 microphones. So if you have a question, please feel free to come on down.
Sure.
Alec, I think you...
Yeah. One more question before we open it up. I know one of the popular topics that we talk about, especially as we as a class get ready to transition to the business world itself, diversity inclusion is very much the hot word. And within the case that we just looked at, one of the challenges that Edwards Jones was taking, at least when this case was written, was trying to break into certain demographics or to be able to serve certain demographics without necessarily having that reflected in the firm itself.
Yeah.
How has that changed since the case is written? How's that going? How have you been able to tackle it, and what's worked and what hasn't?
Yeah. Well, so diversity and inclusion, and those two words are thrown around a lot. Here's how I think about it. Diversity, you can count. Inclusion, you can only feel. And both of them are important. If you can't feel it, it doesn't count. So as we think about our industry, as we think about how we serve clients, our clients are becoming more diverse. Clients across North America are becoming more diverse. I mentioned earlier they're becoming older and they're becoming younger. They're becoming more racially and ethnically diverse. And they look at our industry and say, I'm not sure that's a place for me. It doesn't look like me. Professionals have looked at our industry in the past. I could have looked at our industry in the past and said, that place doesn't look like me. Do I need to see myself there in order to know that that is a place of belonging for me? Well, not necessarily, but yes, yes. Our industry, our firm needs to become more diverse, and we are. Today, about 8% of our financial advisors are racially and ethnically diverse. About 20% of our financial advisors are women, and that needs to be more and more in both places. But it also needs to be represented in the way that we conduct ourselves in our communities, the way that we think about being inclusive, and establishing a place of belonging for serious long-term individual investors. It's something that we're all in the hunt for, but at the bottom line, we all want a sense of belonging wherever we're spending our professional lives. And we all want a sense that bringing our own special gifts, bringing our own experiences is going to matter to that organization in the decisions that they make. And that's what we're all focused on in creating that sense of belonging. Yeah.
I'd like to, if there's no questions from the, there's one. Pete?
So the one question, clearly it's a very tight-knit group. It's a great group, it sounds like, actually, who work for Edward Jones. Mm-hmm. And I was curious how, because clearly not everybody who works there ends up staying there for their career. Sometimes you let people go.
Right.
So I was curious how you guys went about that process. If you identified someone who maybe wasn't best for the firm, even after being hired, kind of what's the process of identifying and then letting them go?
Yeah. I'll tell you a funny story. We had the Disney Institute come and speak to a couple of our major recognition conferences, and the woman from the Disney Institute, y'all know Disney, right? They create magic, and they have a durable business model that's created magic for years and years and years. Walt Disney said, "We create magic and we will never be finished." I think that's terrific. She said, "We never fire anybody at Disney. We just invite them to find their happy place somewhere else." So, you know, in every organization has got a culture, right? There are cultural fits in every organization, and people. This is one reason why we hire for fit. We hire for around our 4 core values. We hire for putting the client's interests first. We hire for servant-heartedness. We hire for all of those things. So folks who recognize during their careers that a couple of things might happen, that they no longer have the desire, the appetite, or the ability to continue to be learners in a growing organization, an organization that's got to constantly innovate and evolve, and we're getting better at this. You need to be a learner, right? So helping professionals be learners and providing an environment where they can be that way. But also the cultural fit around nurturing other people is so important at Edward Jones. And people tend to self-select out before they get here or after they're here and feel that it's not quite the right fit. the other thing that I want to say about culture and a strong culture as it relates to diversity and inclusion, though, that we all have to be really careful about is that the strength of the culture not send the message explicitly, certainly, but with unwritten rules or policies or signals that this strong culture means there isn't a sense of belonging for people with a different point of view or a different set of experiences. I can tell you, when I came to Edward Jones from the banking industry, and as a woman, I had a different set of experiences and a different point of view. I had to feel comfortable and be made to feel comfortable raising my hand and offering that point of view. And as leaders, we have to help that happen in our organizations. And what Ed says about your culture is defined about what you walk past and don't correct. In our organizations, when we hear things that need to be corrected around acceptance and inclusion and having others offer their ideas and their experiences, we can't walk past it when that doesn't happen. That's not good for our firms.
Penny said something in passing that I don't want to let slide by. That was that I've been invited to one of the programs. I think it was the top 500.
Top 400 financial advisors of our firm.
This was in Scottsdale, and it was a beautiful day. And the top 400 salespeople are in a room like this. Somebody like me talking to them about ethics. Now let me make it one step worse. It was not just me, it was also the partner in charge of compliance, talking to the 400 top salesmen. Let me remind you, this is the financial services industry. These are the customer-facing people. I commented at that program saying things like, it's on you. You know, the future and the culture and the ethical performance of Edward Jones is on the people in that room. That would not have happened. And you can't say this, but I'll say it. It would not happen anywhere. I mean, I could tell that story to a number of different firms and they'd say, that never happened. You have obviously gone over the falls if you're imagining that, because it doesn't happen. I think it speaks volumes about the firm that Penny is about to take the reins of. Thank you so much for being with us. I know you've had a really, really difficult and pressing time today, and it doesn't show. You're doing a great job. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ed. It's a pleasure. Thank you.